Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelley, Eathan Janney, and Josh Kriger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Today's episode features Al Morris, Chief Architect and co-founder of Koii Network, which stands for Knowledgeable, Open, and Infinite Internet. Koii is a protocol focused on infrastructure to bring true decentralization to all dApps in the Web3 space. Koii has a fully self-sustaining ecosystem driven by the Koii token. As an innovator and tech leader building an operating system for decentralized digital storage, Al formed Koii Network in 2020 to broaden the range of possibilities for the future of Web3, with an emphasis on creating decentralized storage systems as a way to create an unbiased and transparent network. Al co-founded Blockchain Institute Chicago, we teach blockchain.org, to help educate the public and promote the adoption, development, and use of blockchain technology. Outside of his core responsibilities, Al is an advisor at XYZ Technologies, as well as other projects within the blockchain and crypto community. He is an avid NFT collector, which drove his passion for creating atomic and dynamic NFTs at Koii Network, the fundamental building block of the fair, community-owned internet. Al Morris, welcome back to Edge of NFT.
Thanks, Ethan. That's a hell of an intro. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, hell of a background, man.
Here with you guys again.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, dude, so great to have you back, man. And we gave some background on Koii and what it is, but for our listeners who aren't familiar with it, in your own words, man, please share with them the story of Koii and how it came to be.
So the short version of the story is just we're trying to solve this problem of speech on the internet. The internet is this incredible tool that allows us to transmit information around the world very, very quickly. But currently it's mostly owned by a few major companies. And as a result, most of the important information, like all the nuance to the discussion, tends to exist on private servers. So we're just trying to provide the tools that will enable people to build kind of a new generation of web products that are going to have all of that information be public so that everybody has access to it. And hopefully this will allow people to make better judgments about what they believe online. And hopefully this means we can get out of kind of the current rhetoric cycle that we're seeing around the world. Because it doesn't really matter where you are right now. There's a lot of kind of craziness in the news, and it seems like it just accelerates every week over what was happening the last week. So we're really committed to working towards making that an easier and hopefully less kind of mythical problem. Everybody sees this as something like, that's how speech has always been, but we think we can actually fix it. So we've got like 20-30 people working around the clock, just trying to make this problem a little bit more tangible and kind of pick away at it one piece at a time.
Yeah, big problem to solve, big problem to tackle, that's for sure.
Yeah, totally. And you guys have had an ambitious plan since the jump. I look back, our first episode was in the 30s of the show, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about how your vision has changed over the last year since we originally spoke, and how like these tracks that you're laying now are impacted by what you've learned over the course of that time, and how the industry has shaped your perspective.
So the first thing I'll say is we've realized that there's a lot more out there than we knew about before. So as we've started to put together this toolkit for people, we've come across all kinds of products like decentralized VPNs, decentralized hosting, and all these toolkits that we didn't know were there. And so we've been able to start integrating a lot of those things into kind of this bouquet of toolkits that Koii performs with. And the best part of all of this, and still kind of the core of the ecosystem, is that as a content creator or an app developer, if your content gets attention, you get to mine the Koii token. And once you have these Koii tokens, you can use them to pay for all of these other services. So we kind of provide this one-stop shop for people who want to create something that's going to change people's minds.
Yeah, We've had lots of great discussions. I think, one of my favorites was when we had a group discussion talking just about the creator economy and all that's going on and sort of tokenizing different forms of value. And so it's really great to have you back here. And you have a very kind of meta theoretical perspective on all this, which is always great to hear. Right now, we were all excited about having all the world's information accessible online. And sure, it's all there now, including all the BS. And the problem is filtering it. And where do people's attention go? And it's as we alluded to before, it's an issue. Like we've got lots of information. The attention goes from one thing to another, and you don't always know where to put it. So how do you view the current state of what we might call the attention economy?
Oof, that's a hard question.
All right, we can skip it. You guys want to talk to the next one?
To give you the very quick meta answer, it's like, how do you look at the attention economy? Well, it's all about capitalizing attention like a commodity. We have wars that are fought over oil and gas extraction, but the next wars we fought over basically attention extraction, probably. That's probably where we're headed, right? We have to keep people's attention on one thing so that we can have a democracy that goes the direction that people want it to go. And so what we're hopefully starting to see is that people are learning that they can fight this game and that they can actually build things. Like if you start a Shopify store and you start selling a product, you're selling an idea and you're trying to capture people's attention so they come and buy from you instead of buying from Walmart. And that's part of the attention economy. And all of these things are kind of part of this. I think what we're starting to notice now, which is really exciting, is that a lot of people are actually really motivated to start diverting attention from some of the crazy stuff towards some of the things that everybody shares that are more important. We're just getting a little bit closer every day, but people they seem to be starting to wake up towards this, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
So
it almost like comes across as like as I look at it back through, my lifetime, it's like a counter evolution of, it's like a battle of resources. You might see like between two ecologies, right? In biology or something, where there's been generations that were surprised by the ability of corporations and parties to like pinpoint how attention is garnered and do it in a very calculated way. But the people who were sort of affected by that didn't necessarily know how to manage that, right? Or account for that or battle that. Even sometimes the people who are creating those kind of attention hacks couldn't defend against it. But I think there is, like, I think as you're indicating, there's a generation that's coming up where we've got enough information out there about this, and it has been accessed enough, and people are sort of have that awareness that they do want to do something about it. And there's these tools, right? There's these tools to battle it.
Yeah, I think there's a conscious power that comes from being able to channel your attention yourself. And so if you can prevent other people from diverting your attention, then you actually have like a little bit of superpower. So we're starting to try and create tools that cater to that audience more so than anyone else. But
yeah, so like when we look at the future of the attention economy, and we kind of know where we're at right now and some of the problems around it. You mentioned tools that Koii is developing to help address the problems underlying the attention economy. What does that future look like, say, over the next year or so?
Hopefully a lot less radical rhetoric. That would be great. I think we have a tendency to, every time that there's a conflict in the world, or there's something that kind of has a chance to pull on people's heartstrings, there becomes almost an escalation of pulling on those heartstrings. And so someone might have their heart in the right place, trying to just, rally support for something they care about. And then someone else comes along realizing that that person has created a platform for themselves and tries to steal the stage. And then you've got Kanye West bursting into the Oscars and yelling at Taylor Swift, kind of thing, but on like a political agenda scale. And I kind of hope that people start to see this as what it actually is, and they start seeing these arguments that people are making more as kind of arguments that are vying for the attention of the masses, as opposed to rhetoric that's meant to be taken kind of seriously. Because if we take everything that a lot of these politicians are saying seriously now, we would end up fighting so many wars in so many places, and it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, in thinking about the dynamics of communication right? You're under the hood on a lot of this stuff. You're seeing what's happening on a lot of this. And we hear stories of bots doing things, coordinated efforts to push one agenda or another. Are you seeing that as you work kind of under the hood in this space? And is that part of the problem? Is that happening at a large scale, like the movie The Social Dilemma, like all those different elements to it? Like, what's your view on that? Like, what's actually happening behind the scenes?
So I can only speak to the part that I've seen, but having worked in ad networks and working in kind of the digital marketing space for a while, you start to see that a lot of the people that are beating you at the game are doing so because they're less ethical. Um, and that's there's a lot of people out there who are just very, very good at the marketing game. And they're kind of terrifying to go up against because from their perspective, they're doing the right thing, but they might be kind of undermining the social order on some level because they try to radicalize people and engage them with thoughts that potentially are, fear and greed motivated as opposed to like something that really brings people together. Um, the exciting thing about this, though, is that those arguments are actually easy to dispel. And so if you can identify them and show them to people, then most people don't really like to be manipulated. So they're pretty quick to turn around and say that they don't want to be part of those things. The movie The Social Dilemma is a really good one to bring up. For those that haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, so it's pretty easy to access. But like basically a lot of the early people from Facebook and Google have now quit and left their jobs and are outspoken critics of these systems because at least in Facebook's case, they're being basically investigated for election meddling in a lot of countries. And it's not Facebook themselves, but it's that the platform that Facebook created didn't have certain safeguards in place. So it made it really easy for people to take advantage of. I think we hope that over time, more and more of these spokespeople will come out, more whistleblowers, and hopefully that will lead to the public opinion shifting to be a little bit more critical of these platforms. But it's all a little step at a time kind of thing. It doesn't happen very quickly because you have to change a lot of hearts and minds.
Yeah, man. So like what in terms of as we think about the tools that you have currently in your arsenal, what do you have? What is the toolkit currently at Koii to help address some of these underlying issues?
So we spent the last year or so developing the core attention tracking system, which allows us to actually verify that you looked at something in a cryptographic way. And that was the first piece of this puzzle. Then as we started to look at that more and try to scale it up to like a global web adoption kind of level, which, for us, that means hitting around 100 billion proofs of real traffic per day, being able to parse through all of those and come out with a list of things that receive traffic. That was the first step. So we've put that work all in, we've built all of that technology stack. And now what we've built on top of that is a system of templates and app toolkits so that somebody who has very little developer experience can come to this system and deploy their own crowdfunding portal, social media app, social leaderboard, content kind of system, messaging app, VPN, anything like this, kind of trying to arm the rebels, so to speak. Because if we can take all of these disenfranchised people who are upset about this and then give them either a tool that somebody else has built that will allow them to engage or the tools to build those things themselves, then that can really trigger some kind of evolution from that. As an example of this, over the last couple of weeks since we started seeing what was happening on the ground in Ukraine, we developed sort of a Snapchat-like toolkit that allows you to post to decentralized storage. And so you can take a quick video on your phone, and then you can post it out to a bunch of decentralized storage networks and make sure it can't get taken down. And then you can also earn some crypto for that. So it's kind of like a nice way to make some money, document what's going on, and make sure that this decentralized network of computers will take care of that for you. So you never have to worry about the information being lost. And you can also stay very private and pseudonymous in the process. So there's a lot of these kind of little pieces that we're trying to put together for people.
That's very cool. Was that sort of a spontaneous project that you just developed based on what you felt was like a need in the global landscape, or is that tied to some of the other major milestones that you already have coming up or recent tools that you built?
Yeah, so it was actually something we call this toolkit the mobile toolkit for Koii. It's what's called a progressive web app, so you can install it without even going to an app store. So we actually already had this as part of the stack that we've been developing for a long time. And then as we put it together, we had kind of an early prototype of it a couple of weeks ago, and we saw what was happening over there, saw the need to kind of capture some of this content and be able to say like, this firsthand account is real versus this one that may not be. and try to capture that kind of nuance. So we've started to deploy it with a number of our community members. We also have a very large community in Ukraine and in Russia. So we've been trying to talk to those community members and see if there's something that we can offer that might help, because we can give money to lots of organizations. We're working on that. We're trying to help a few people with crowdfunding portals for different food banks and things like that. But if we can really provide something that fixes the speech problem as well, I think that has a lot of power to change things. Ultimately, like those of us outside of that situation, we can't say a lot that's going to shift the narrative. But if we can help people there talk to each other, then that really might help.
How did you get the word out? I mean, are these folks that are just in your Discord and in your Telegram that that you're communicating with Twitter? I'm just kind of curious how you go about marketing an app in such a dynamic environment as is the case in the Ukraine right now.
In a hostile environment, it's very difficult. So we had, luckily, a lot of people from our community that reached out to us asking if there were toolkits that they could use for this kind of thing. As an example, with Telegram, the founder of Telegram is apparently fairly close with the Russian leadership. And so a lot of people are skeptical of using that service. Some people have moved over to Signal because of this. We had a lot of people asking us for tips on like, what could they do to communicate in a decentralized fashion that was going to be secure. So we tried to kind of accelerate the development and release of this toolkit in order to respond to those needs. But now, as a result of that, we are talking to a lot of people who we've been brought into contact with, who are contacts of these folks. We're starting to interview a lot of different people in all kinds of places and see what we can do to make it easier for them. What we're hoping to do in the next little while is to fund somebody who's actually Ukrainian or Russian to build out an extended version of this. And we have a grants pool that we've recently announced. So hopefully we'll get to put a lot of that money towards that kind of an initiative.
That's very cool. And yeah. I guess that sort of leads me to my next question. I'm curious, what are the next major milestones for Koii? Some of the partnerships that you've been cooking up. Maybe I saw Al briefly at ETH Denver between a lot of different meetings and interviews and whatnot. I think we shared a bad coffee together at the only place around that we could find any kind of coffee. So it was, but it was good to see you. So, well, what have you been cooking up while you've been on the road, and what are you guys building?
So we spent most of last year building the proofs of concept for all of these systems that I'm describing. And now what we're trying to do is to kind of fine tune the details to get to a global scale. So one thing that we did recently was we created our own layer 1 network that does payment settlements between our nodes. And that means that now our nodes can take on a much larger amount of work than they would have previously been able to, and we can do things a lot faster than we could before. So we're up to about like 2,000 transactions per second. And that also means that as a result, we can track more attention. So instead of being able to track around like 1 million to 2 million proofs of real traffic per day, which is kind of our cap before, now we're kind of on the order of 100 billion. So really trying to extend the system to get ready for that influx of people that are coming in. At the same time, we're also releasing these app toolkits that I've been talking about. And so a lot of those will hopefully help developers to onboard into the system. And we've been building out a grants program. We've actually allocated a couple $1 million towards grants. And so those will all be going to projects that are built on top of this framework that I'm describing.
That's really cool. And with regard to this framework, to what extent is it going to be compatible with developers that are building on some of the traditional social networks like Twitter, for example, versus building their own sort of technology and networks? What's your perspective on sort of supporting those two different paradigms?
So that's actually one of the best things about Koii. We've even recently been talking to like folks like Google and Amazon about how we can make their services more well integrated into Web3. And what we're trying to do with these Koii nodes is that the Koii node can read from many different networks. So not just from Arweave and Filecoin, but also Ethereum and Bitcoin, and from like a Web2 API like Twitter. And so that's actually one of the main advantages of what we've built, is that it's able to have this cross-chain interoperability. As a side effect of that, we also can now track attention on YouTube or on a website or something like that. And so you can come to Koii and you can register content that's not even stored on decentralized networks, which hopefully down the road means that you can start to monetize almost any piece of content anywhere on the internet using Koii.
Beautiful. Yeah. And we, we've been learning so much about this, of course, because we're in Web3 and we're in media and we're building a community and we're building a conference. And it's just, it's really incredible, the opportunities here, and also just the ways we're sort of, people are doing this over and over, like organically kind of rewarding people for being a part of the community and giving their attention. And attention itself can be a reward. People want to be seen. That's part of why they want to be part of a community. But yeah, it's definitely the next wave, rewarding that kind of integration. I think community is a big part of it is too.
Yeah, and the Koii token itself is only one form of reward. It's just, if people are looking at your content, you can earn Koii. There's a social media network we're now incubating on top of Koii that's going to pay people for looking at content as well, which is pretty cool. So if you have a higher reputation, then people who look at your content will get more of this new token. It's a product called Tree Space, but I'm sure people will hear about that pretty soon. The other thing we're really excited about, though, is kind of performance incentives around the NFT side. I know we haven't really talked about NFTs much. All the stuff that we've been talking about is like, NFTs are the core element of all of these systems. So in order for it to be a decentralized network, everything gets stored as an NFT. But we also do have the CryptoFish NFT collection, which is coming out shortly. So that's somebody in the community that has been drawing pixelated fish. And they're very cool, very unique. Some of them have baseball caps. Some of them have very funny looking eyes, or they've got like an anchor next to them, or a treasure chest. You can think of it kind of like a Bored Ape profile pic collection. So we'll be dropping a few of those today for people that are participating by listening to this podcast as well, I think. Oh,
nice. No, we just kind of dropped that almost like under the radar there. Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
I'll bring that at the end as well. But
yeah, awesome. All right, before we wrap up the questions, someone like you who's just got you're not only about kind of sharing information about the space, but you've got your ear to the ground, and you're networking with like the coolest people and the most powerful projects. What other companies in NFT land are inspiring to you these days outside of Koii?
Oh, wow. Big question. I'm really excited about the adoption of gaming platforms. So Axie Infinity and similar products. I think those are going to spur a lot of people to start understanding what it is to have a wallet and how to actually use these things. I also have been really enjoying talking to the Filecoin folks lately. They have sort of an initiative to decentralize Filecoin now. So they're working on taking Protocol Labs, which is the parent company, and decentralizing it into a whole bunch of subsidiaries, all of which will be basically governance managed by, I think, NFTs or governance tokens, which is really exciting. So there's a lot of this sort of the DAO evolution of NFTs. I think that's very cool. Even if you look at the Bored Ape Yacht Club and other groups like this, they're now starting to act more like organizations than like art collectors, which is very neat. It's almost like an evolution to the next wave of what's happening.
Well, Al, you've been up to a lot since we last talked to you, man. I guess it was back in July, almost a year ago. Amazing progress. So many cool things happening on the Koii front. Really great to get the update here. We always go to segment 2 at this point. It's a section we call Edge Quick Hitters. We did it last time with you. And so I'm assuming the answers really haven't changed a ton, since most of it has to do with your life in the past. And so we wanted to actually flip the script a little bit today and do a special thing, which we've never done before in 117 plus episodes. And that is turn those questions around and ask one of our hosts those questions. So what we wanted to do today, Al, is have you ask the Edge Quick Hitter questions to our very own Eathan Janney. You down?
Lovely. Yeah, for sure. Am I asking all of them in order, or do we kind of just pick and choose? We make them up as we go.
We ask them in order, man. That's it.
Yeah.
And Eathan his charge is to keep it short and sweet, but we may go a little deeper, I think, on some of these things. So
why don't you read the intro to that as well, Al, and also ask me if I'm ready, because that's part of the project, part of the process.
I do it every time.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes. Awesome. I'll read it. Edge Quick Hitters are a fun and quick way to get to know, I guess, me a little bit better. 10 quick questions, looking for just single few word responses, and we can feel free to expand if we get the urgent "Am I ready?" No, but we're picking on me today. I found this out at the front of the episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. So ready now?
Yeah, I'm ready now.
Lovely. So what is the first thing that you remember purchasing in your life?
Okay, whenever this question comes up, I think about how I saved a bunch of money. I was a big saver when I was a kid, and I didn't know necessarily what to do with it. I just knew that it was good to save it. So I just like had all this money piling up, piling up, piling up. And, you know, my family encouraged me to get something. And so we went, I think it was to Foot Locker, and I got to look around and see, or we were just at the mall, but I ended up in Foot Locker, and there was just one of those mini basketball hoops, you know, the ones that you hang on a door, and it comes with a tiny little basketball. And I got that. Yeah. And that's kind of the first thing I ever remember purchasing in my life. And even though it's like a fun toy, I remember that was also my first buyer's remorse. I was like, I spent all of that, you know, time and energy earning all that money. I was like, is this really what I wanted to do? Anyways, that's my first purchase.
Hopefully you're really good at layups now.
Yeah, actually, yes, I'm pretty good. I could do a pretty solid reverse layup.
Wow, excellent. Yeah, so no buyer's remorse at all then. What is the first thing you remember ever selling in your life?
Okay, this one's kind of fun. The first thing I can really remember is having a band in high school, and selling CDs for the band. And I'm so glad I got a chance to have that experience, like having a high school band. I realized everybody has a high school band to a certain degree, but it comes in stages. You either just talked about having a band and you came up with a name. That counts for like your base level of being in a band. Next level is you got to friend together with your friends and you strummed your guitars, right? A little bit. And you had a name, right? It goes deeper and deeper until you actually got on stage and performed. So I'm glad I got to the level, and we actually sold some CDs to like people's parents who felt sorry for us.
Follow-up question: what genre of music and how many CDs were sold?
Oh man, I'm gonna guess at under 100, and I would say we played jazz. We fancied ourselves to be jazz kind of rock fusion musicians, and the name of the band was Free Bop.
I feel like there's some NFTs coming.
Yeah, could be.
Sounds lovely. Okay, what is the most recent thing that you purchased?
Oh man, most recent thing that I purchased. Gosh, a good question. There's probably some things since then, but I got a new computer to like, you know, like a gaming level computer, you know, to serve the fact that we're doing all these podcast recordings and things like that, to make sure it worked. I got a router, a computer, and a modem to upgrade my system. Glad I did it. What's that?
What kind of computer?
It is a Dell Alienware M15R5.
Sounds very fancy.
Go get yours today. This episode is brought to you by Alienware.
You guys have a coupon for that?
No.
Too bad. Alienware should sponsor. What is the most recent thing that you sold?
We've been selling spirit seeds like crazy, my friend. We're almost sad to let them all go. But last night we sold out of spirit seeds minting on the website. And it was an incredible milestone. We do have a few in our back pocket that we might put out on the market in the coming days so that people can get back in on the action, get a VIP pass to NFT LA and all sorts of other perks. And thank you so much for giving me a chance to plug that. I did not even plan that.
Great plug. Great plug. I still have to get one of those. Okay, what is your most prized possession? This is actually the one I was excited for. Hopefully one of those CDs from circa 2005.
Oh man, my most prized possession. I don't really know if this counts, but it's really first thing comes to mind for me. My uniqueness, just like who I am. You know, it's not always easy every day. You got your ups and downs, but like having who I am and all the uniqueness of it, I treasure that. Yeah,
I certainly can agree with that sentiment. Eathan is one of the most unique individuals I've met in my entire life.
I have to say, Josh is pretty close as well, and Jeff. We've got quite a crew here of kind of quirky, unique guys.
There can be only one.
Like an NFT. I love it.
There you go.
If you could buy anything in the world, digital, physical, service, experience that is currently for sale, what would it be? Hopefully not my uniqueness. It's not for sale.
Yeah. Wow. I should have had some forethought on this one. Gosh, you know, we've asked it so many times. I feel like I've come up with answers before that were really good, but on the spot here,
We'll give you the what do you have your eye on prompt.
yeah. I mean, my favorite answers from previous guests is purchasing something to get better the world, because, why would you get anything else? Makes the whole world a better
Putin's
place.
High School Diary.
And what's that?
Vladimir Putin's High School Diary.
Yeah, I don't know whether that will help. but yeah, I mean, I think we have been talking about the Ukraine here, and yeah, gosh, if I don't have the answer, but I think in this very moment, something I would be searching for something to sort of quell this sort of drama and really fear that people have to live in during this time, right? And bring to light, the sort of foibles of human psychology that allow, crazy stuff to happen, and bring sort of mental health more into people's lives. I think that would be a powerful thing.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll move on to the next one then. If you could pass on one of your personality traits to the next generation, what would it be? And if you could eliminate one of your personality traits, what would that be?
Thanks for throwing them together there. Okay, passing on. I think it's just a personality trait. We've brought it up a few times here. I really think the creative and creator economy is the future. So that willingness to let go of a little bit of the kind of what I know you call it, factory, industrial, corporate, history that we have around what does it mean to contribute to society, and bring in, like, let your brain go wild, and give all this cool stuff to everybody that only you can give. I think that's that attitude is what I would pass along.
More uniqueness. It's good for everything.
Yeah, creativity. Yeah,
absolutely.
Elimination. Okay, which one would I eliminate? Oh. Let's see here. Eliminate. I guess it would be, oh man, I don't know. I'd try to bring a little bit more focus into things. I mean, I can get in zones of focus, but to be willing to just like zoom in, and really make something happen in the moment, like immediately. So we're getting rid of kind of like sort of like getting lost, or not knowing what the next step is. Yeah, that would be that.
Time saving. What did you do just before joining us on the podcast, and what are you going to do next?
So just before joining us on the podcast, I prepped for the podcast like I always do. Got my computer set up, get ready to go, check over the notes, set up everything. I'm kind of like the curator of the content here. I also had a fun meeting just before this with Jesse Tevelo of Praise. And maybe if the video goes out, people will find out he and I are going to do an AMA in the Praise Pals Discord channel tomorrow, and we're going to put people on a whitelist and give them like a Gleam contest. Lots of cool stuff going on with Praise right now. And actually, was he the one in the conversation with you and I that we had?
Yeah, we were in I think a panel for
That's
the Miami
awesome.
conference.
Oh wow!
What a great coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great to hear they're still doing well. And so right after this podcast, what are you up to?
Right after this podcast, I think I just look at my calendar and go, okay, what's next? Time
to eat dinner.
It's kind of like just check the calendar and go. All right, I'll say this. This is easy. I have to be responsible for like making sure I'm patient enough to let the whole recording download, upload it so that we can publish it, get all the details together, so that we can roll on the publication of this very fine program. That's what I'll be doing after this podcast.
Awesome. And then send me your address on your Finny wallet and I'll send you a crypto fish.
Okay, nice. By the way, I do have some posts of my music that are on Koii.rocks. I posted at least one song, I believe, a song called Mars that I'm quite proud of, that I wrote during a kind of like a Beeple like Everydays project, but I only did it for 3 or 4 months. I would write like a song a day. So check out Mars, my song on Koii.rocks.
I would love to get that in front of all kinds of people if you send me the link. We can help you mine a bunch of
We'll share it.
We'll share it. Lovely. Can't wait to see that. Cool. I think that is the end of our Edge quick hitters. Thank you.
Thank
you for not making me do it again. So
you're welcome. Amazing job, dude. Thank you so much, man. That's great. And thank you, Ethan. That was awesome, man. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah. Fun time.
Let's tackle a couple hot topics. What do you say, man?
All right, let's hit it. First on the line, Adobe taps Polygon to scale NFT functionality in Behance social platform. Hey, that's pretty cool putting those two things together. Adobe's got a lot of wonderful things going on in the design world. Has been a really interesting project and company for many years. And looks like they announced they're working with Polygon, which is kind of just a leader as well in sort of providing tokens that are easily exchanged, without high gas fees. You could use them in gaming and all sorts of cool projects. And they have this. They want to integrate the Ethereum scaling program into Behance social media platform. Integration, according to Polygon, will allow creators to showcase NFTs to the world while minimizing their carbon footprint and transaction fees. So I did not expect this, I'll say that, but it does sound pretty awesome. I want to know, like, what were the dominoes that came together to make this happen? Sounds like a cool story.
Well, I don't know. I know Adobe had been doing some stuff in the realm of NFTs and trying to stay ahead of things. And I think it's just great to see, a company that's existing and big and oftentimes very slow moving, starting to make some moves there to try to stay up with what's happening, because the train's left the station on that front. There's a bunch of companies just kind of sitting tight. And I think that that's a mistake. You got to move, you got to adapt. Otherwise you get replaced. And so they've kind of always evolved, I feel like, over time, as I've seen us go from Web 2 to Web 3 and so on. So, kudos to them for continuing that path.
I will say it's exciting to see more integration with the creator toolkits, because like when I first learned graphic design probably 10 or 15 years ago, it was on Adobe. And there's so many new people coming from that ecosystem. So if we get them all to get crypto wallets and they all understand what NFTs are out of the door, and then everything that they create is an NFT by default, like that can't be anything but good for the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And we've seen this before with render, right? Like kind of like integrating the creation process and the kind of accounting process of who made what. And it is really great. It does hold a lot of promise for keeping track of things in a better way and giving good, credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I love it as just an example of the Web 2 sort of legacy companies being very creative and partnering with Web 3. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about a lot at NFTLA. There's some really exciting companies that you would be surprised to see in this space, and companies that are in the sort of traditional crypto space that you're going to be surprised to now see in the NFT space. And I think that sort of melting pot of ideas and innovation is where we're at as a NFT sort of Web3 economy right now. And it's a great opportunity for mainstream adoption. And I think everyone can be part of that process.
Yeah, indeed. Should we hit the next one? Or the next one? I don't know. There
Punch
might be a neck one.
Let's do it.
Might be a neck one coming up here. Yeah. NFT hype fading. Market volume touches the lowest value since July 2021. Interesting. Yeah, we did have a story about quite a rise in value. I think that was back in January. So as Bitcoin and the wider crypto market has continued to bleed recently, the NFT token sector has also seemed to have suffered in the past month. Decreasing values of the volume suggests the NFT market activity is going down, implying that the interest in these digital collectibles may be declining. Wow.
I don't know. I think that's a biased point of view. We've seen ups and downs in the overall market, and clearly there's a threshold, right? When when the crypto market goes down to a certain amount, it is going to impact, ancillary markets like NFTs at some point in time. I think what's more interesting is the NFTs held their own during most of the battle, right? Like it's like a boxing match, and yeah, if you keep getting punched in the face, eventually you're gonna like get knocked down. But the NFTs were like in the ring, for a really long time, holding their own against like some Goliath boxer, and being the downward pressure on not only the crypto market but the overall global markets right now. So I don't really look at this as necessarily a quote trend, if you will, on a macro level.
Yeah, I agree, man. Look, looking at the micro, moves, and by that I mean like even over the course of a full year in NFTs, as much as things change in that time, is totally short-sighted. This is a long game, and the things that are going to happen and are happening in real time are going to be impactful for the rest of our lives in some form or fashion. It's the beginning of it, and so it'll take different shapes and forms over time. But to look at it as even a market just based on the value of certain individual NFTs is missing the point. There's so much more happening here, and I think it's just it's sensational media. We were talking about some of that before, and to me, when I see that stuff, I'm just like looking for headlines, looking for clicks.
Yeah, it's most of these headlines around things going up and down are just very much about kind of capturing human psychology. And I think that's probably, at least for me, when we got into the podcast, what was fascinating to me is to actually look back and be able to learn about all the things that had been going on in NFTs before, March 2021, when we first launched our first episode. I was like, oh, like there's a lot of cooking here for quite a while. And I think that also what's illustrative is that, even though cryptocurrencies and NFTs are connected, they're just like totally different worlds about like, what they're for and what they do, and, how they connect with communities and and economies and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a non sequitur to kind of talk about the NFT market. Like, I
Anytime that somebody talks about a whole market, it's always fun. You can't ever refer to something on that. It's like a stereotype, right? Like stereotypes are never 100% true. But the nice thing and kind of the parallel with the crypto market is that as crypto markets have shown, just because the price of a token goes up or down doesn't really dictate what the underlying value is or whether the underlying value is growing. So most of the founders that I know right now, they've got, 2, 3, maybe even 10 years of treasury stocked away. Like Polygon, we mentioned before, they have a huge fund now. They're acquiring people. They're building out gigantic technology stacks. They've got developers working around the clock, building the technology underneath it. And so does Koii, and so does Arweave, and so does Filecoin. And this is kind of always the parallel to what we see in the public market is, there's the public market going up and down, and then there's the actual people walking to work every day and doing their jobs. The cool thing about NFTs now is that now we kind of have these art platforms that are going to work the same way. So like if the price of a Picasso at Sotheby's goes up and down, it doesn't actually mean that artists are not creating more art or that the auction houses are going bankrupt. It just means that the latest price went up or down and somebody's trying to get on the headlines to make the front page. But / rant, sorry. You see a lot of this stuff though. It's very frustrating how much of it gets onto the headlines, but it's good to kind of like fact check it sometimes a little bit.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I think we have a little fan and / listener shout out to slang out there, Ethan.
Let's do it.
You got your finger on the pulse. What's happening?
I love these. These are fun. So as you put on a conference, I'll try to put this in the most vague and friendly way possible. You find out all the intricate ways that people try to get involved in the conference, just because they want to be a part of it. Hey, why don't you give me a free VIP ticket? That would be cool, and I'll hang out because I'm great. Or it's fun to see the kind of things people come up with, and we've been having fun with it, and also being appreciative of all the really wonderful people that show up and want to lend a hand. So here's a heartwarming story for us to share that came up in the Discord the other day. Vicky from the Discord, I'll just read it because it tells the story. She's just in a Twitter space with a member called Almaden Finance, who really I'm kind of shouting out today. And his real name is Cal Brinkman. So really inspiring stuff. The host of photos.eth, and they did a great AMA together. And it was their first time, did a really good job. And there was an artist friend who was speaking, and she said she could not go to NFTLA due to the price. Okay, so they're having this AMA. She said she couldn't go to NFTLA because of the price. And he demanded her wallet address and forwarded the price of the ticket to her. So it was a great, inspiring personal story all around, she said. But the topper was that she found out that Almaden also split the amount, right? So the two of these guys, just out of the kindness of their heart, feeling like somebody deserves a ticket to NFTLA, they put their funds together and they made it happen. So a shout out to Almaden Finance, known as Cal Brinkman, and I'll give people a project that he's just started, which you might want to check out. It's called Trading Tokenomics, and it seeks to demystify what cryptocurrency ownership means. It's important to understand the difference between currencies and stocks. Therefore, their goal is to lead you to ask the right questions before considering a cryptocurrency as a store of value. So shout out to those folks. Thanks for being part of this community. We really appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah, that's totally something I could use. It would cause me to maybe use less ape behavior on such a regular basis.
There it is. Hard to avoid. Well, look, I think that's a wrap on the core episode. Awesome stuff all around. Al, thanks again for joining us, man. Like, it's been great to have you back on. It's rare that we get a second visit, and it's so great to see you again, man. For the listeners who don't know, where do folks go to follow you and Koii and all the amazing things that are happening?
Our Twitter is probably the best place. That's Koii Network with 2 I's, Koii Network. And you can also go to Koii.network, very similar, which is our website. And you can sign up for our mailing list where we have pretty good updates coming out regularly. Thanks again for having me on. It's always great to kind of round up the latest kind of goings on in the space. And thank you, Eathan, for sharing your personal life with us. Sorry for that.
Thanks for digging into it, man.
You did a great job, man. And we mentioned it earlier, but just again, we do have a fun giveaway that'll be happening. So just keep an eye on our socials. We'll get you all the details. It's going to be really fun. And, you'll learn all about it here very soon once we release the episode. So I think at this point, we have reached the outer limit at the edge of NFTs for today. So thanks for exploring with us. We've got space for more adventures on this starship. So invite your friends and recruit some cool strangers that will make this journey all so much better. How? Go to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us and say something awesome. Then go to edgeofnft.com to dive further down the rabbit hole. And remember, we always invite you to co-create and build with us at Edge of NFT. We are unlocking a whole new way to collect and collaborate with us through our own NFT drops. Spirit Seeds, which is sold out, Leading to Living Tree NFTs, which light the way to our event, NFT LA, a one-of-a-kind, immersive, and unforgettable experience at LA Live in Los Angeles, March 28th to the 31st. Check it out at nftla.live and move quick on early tickets because they are selling out quickly. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for great NFT content. And one little piece of advice, if you do see a Spirit Seed for sale on the secondary market, you may want to pick that thing up. It's packed full of value. We could talk more about that later. Thanks again for sharing this time with us today.